Hi everyone, I'm Ellie from Ellie's Exotics, and today we are going through 10 mistakes that new snake owners make. It's Snake Week, so obviously I had to talk about snakes, and hopefully these tips and tricks are a little bit different from other videos that you might watch online. And speaking of online, that brings me to my first point, which is that you shouldn't really rely on social media to give you care advice. I know. That's exactly what I am doing right now. But there is a ton, and I mean a ton, of outdated information on specifically YouTube. And I don't blame you if you want to take care advice from someone who has way more subscribers than me. But the amount of subscribers or followers that they have does not amount to the amount of knowledge that they have, because there is always new research coming out, there's new technology coming out like lighting systems, and someone that you can trust for care advice should always be researching as much as possible and looking for these new things that are constantly coming out. If they are still recommending aspen in a heat mat and a 10-gallon cage, then that is really not someone that you should be trusting. Number 2. Handling your snake right away. This one has definitely been said before, but what I recommend is that you wait roughly 2 weeks before you handle your snake. And this doesn't just go for when you first bring them home. Anytime you redo your animal's enclosure, you should treat them as if they are a now new animal. Cleaning out all of the substrate or changing the enclosure around drastically can stress out your animal. So in that case, give them a week or two just to settle back in. You'll build a better relationship with your snake if you don't forcefully handle them when they're stressed out. Mistake number 3. Staying on the handling topic, one mistake I see is not hook training from the start. Hook training is when you take a snake hook and you either bop them on the nose a little bit, or if they don't like that, then you can rub the snake hook down their body. A snake that hasn't been hook trained can generally be a little bit more stressed out when being taken out of the enclosure. All of the snakes that I have hook trained are super chill when I'm picking them up. If you hook train them from a baby, I know it can seem a bit pointless using a hook for a baby snake, then you will have an easier time handling them as an adult, because they know that hook means handling and feeding tongs means food. Mistake number 4. Not providing enough hides or clutter within the enclosure. You can create even more naturalistic hiding spots by providing big pieces of cork bark, branches, or logs. You are going to have such a happier and calm snake if you provide them with lots of clutter. They won't feel like they constantly need to be defensive or that they aren't safe in their own enclosure. If you have enough clutter, then generally your snake will be a lot more tame and a lot more calm. And speaking of enclosures, here's mistake number 5. Choosing too small of an enclosure. People underestimate just how active baby snakes can be and how much they will actually utilize a big setup. It is perfectly fine to put a baby snake into an adult enclosure, as long as we're not talking about a tiny little noodle of a corn snake in an 8-foot cage where it would be hard to monitor them. They generally will be fine going straight into a 4-foot viv. The reason why I like to put my baby snakes into bigger enclosures is because of heat gradients. In a small enclosure, especially like a faunarium, like a plastic container, it can be very hard to provide proper heat, but also get a proper heat gradient. A baby snake that is overheating is a dead snake. You'd be much better putting them into a larger enclosure where they can escape the heat so that you don't have a snake that passes away due to them overheating. And for adults, go as big as you can. Give them that 6-foot enclosure. They will use every single inch of it. And going back to the social media topic, there are far too many people saying that you can keep boa constrictors in 4-foot vivs. Generally speaking, your enclosure should be as long as your snake at a minimum. Number 6, feeding outside of the enclosure. It has been floating around that feeding outside of the enclosure can reduce viv defensiveness or feeding response, but let's just have a think about this for a second, okay? If every time you reach into the enclosure to pick up your snake and then put them in a box to feed them, surely they will then associate handling with feeding. No? But not only that, that's not the only issue or problem with this saying. The issue with it is that if you were to pick up your snake immediately after them eating, it could result in them regurgitating their food. If they regurgitate their food, you shouldn't feed your snake for 2, 3, or even 4 weeks, as regurgitating causes microabrasions along the esophagus of your animal. If you were then to feed them again after regurg, then it can actually make these abrasions worse, and it could result in a very, very dangerous health complication. So, there's a simple fix, just feed them in the enclosure. It's not going to make them more food orientated. Mistake number 7. When you first bring your animal home, you should be quarantining them. I have a whole video all about quarantine and how to set up a quarantine enclosure if you are interested in that. But quarantining is essentially keeping your animal in a sterile environment so that you can assess for health problems. It's much easier to treat a health problem when your animal is in quarantine than if they have their full setup and all their substrate. You can take your animal out of quarantine after 8 to 12 weeks or after they've had a full panel done at the vet. Number 8. Choosing the wrong heat source. Again, back to the social media thing, heat mats are not going to be the best source of heat for your snake. Heat comes from the sun, it doesn't come from the ground. If you want something that will help warm up the belly of your snake, because that's the argument I hear quite a lot, then just put a piece of slate in the enclosure. If you want to see the best behavior possible from your snake, then provide them with an incandescent or halogen bulb. And if you want to go even further, then provide them with UVB. I know people say it's not a necessity. Yes, they won't pass away if they don't have it. But if you want to have your animal in the best care possible, then have a think about providing them with a 7% UVB unit. UVB helps with things like egg absorption, digestion, and their coloration can even get better. Since providing UVB to my Dumeral's boa, who I recently got, her iridescence is insane. Her coloration is just gorgeous, and it is nothing like before. Number 9. Kind of staying on the same topic of lighting and heating, and that's not providing your animal with a day and night cycle. So, what is a day and night cycle? Well, when we are doing it in captivity, it essentially means 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Keeping your animal in a well-lit room, like a room with a window, might not even be enough to create this day and night cycle. So, like providing the UVB, the LEDs, and halogen bulbs which produce visible light, that is going to create a daytime and a nighttime, which means that they know when to be active. And yes, you should still provide a day and night cycle for your nocturnal and crepuscular animals. In fact, it might even be more important for them. They come out at night, so they need to know that it's nighttime. And if they eat at nighttime, then how will they know when it's feeding time if there's no lights in the enclosure? And number 10, I cannot stress this enough. Choosing a snake because people have told you that it's a beginner snake. In my opinion, there's no beginner reptile. I don't know what your availability is like, what your schedule is like, how much time you want to spend around the enclosure, because that's what it comes down to. If you're willing to spend more time working with an animal, then there's no reason why you can't go for an animal that is considered, advanced or intermediate even. As long as you do your research, and I mean truly research, then you will be fine going for an animal that isn't a corn snake or a ball python. If you want to go for something that there isn't much information about, then talk to breeders, talk to herpetologists, talk to herping experts. They'll be able to tell you how these animals are living in the wild, what behavior to look for, and things like that. It is possible. Go for the snake that you want. because if you go for a corn snake or a ball python just because it's a first step into reptile keeping, then chances are you might end up rehoming them if you're not truly passionate about them. Go for a snake that you love and that you really care about, and you will be a successful snake owner. So that is everything for today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below any more tips that you might have for new snake owners. Or if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer. So I will see you all later. Bye bye.